Welcome my lovely patrons to this video for February 2019. In this video I'll be talking about the energy of this time, the moons that are happening, the signs the moon's in and things like that for this month, and also revealing our new goddess that we will be working with this month. So let's start off by having a little think about the moon cycle. We ended January on a waning cycle, and the moon is continuing to wane for the first few days of February. Obviously February is the shortest month of the year. I'm just finding my calendar that I've taken out of the Astrocal diary. I love this little calendar because it's so handy, because you can see where the moon is in all of the phases, and also it gives you the whole astrological picture for the month in a very, very tight and small little space, which is really, really handy to refer to. You know, it's not super exact obviously because it's just in that sphere format, but it's brilliant for a kind of bird's eye view of the whole month. So yeah, we're starting on the waning, and then the new moon is on the 4th of the month in Aquarius, because the sun is also in Aquarius, and Aquarius being that sign of expansive, kind of inventive, outside the box kind of thinking, and also with a very kind of community focus as well. So it can be a good time for new beginnings, that new moon, for new beginnings relating to new community projects, anything that is going to be helpful for the community, for especially technologies that are helpful for the community. And when I say technologies, I don't necessarily mean like electrical technologies, like computer tech or anything like that. Just any kind of technology, including magic, would fall under that contributes to kind of the greater good. So that is something to be looking out for this whole lunar cycle. And then we have the half moon, the first quarter moon on the 12th. These times are all GMT, and I will be posting these on Patreon as well, so you'll get an email just before each of these moons as well, so that you've got a little heads up about that. And that is in Taurus, a nice earthy Taurus, so time to get a little bit more grounded, put those plans into action, which is what you expect at that kind of phase of the moon as well. And then the full moon in Virgo, again another earth sign, on the 19th for me in GMT. That what we were doing in January was very much, sorry, I can hear my kids calling in the background. I should have shut the door, but I had the heater on in here and it got really, really hot. So if I'd shut the door, it's too wet. It's really wet and windy in Wales here today. So if I'd opened the skylights, I'd be kind of, everything would be zooming around the room. So I've left the door open, but now you can hear them calling each other. So sorry about that. So yeah, the January was almost like kind of putting the plans in place, but not necessarily really taking steps. And February feels to me now to be more about actually taking those steps. A lot of work was done in January, and now it's time to kind of really take that another step forward, and you'll actually start to see more results. Perhaps not even in February, but you know, as with anything, when you plant something, you don't get results immediately. So it's setting up the rest of the year, really, what is going on in this cycle. And then the last quarter, the waning moon, is on the 26th in Sagittarius, in the fiery sign of Sagittarius. And Jupiter is also in Sagittarius, which is its home, it rules that sign. So it's kind of got a bit of extra oomph behind that as well. So again, even though it is at the waning end of the cycle, when you'd be expecting to kind of be pruning things away perhaps and clearing, ready for the new cycle, you might find you get an extra little fiery burst around that time, which I think will be useful, because I find February, being in the northern hemisphere, it is the time, you know, spring is almost coming, and I feel like I want to start clearing things out and kind of get things moving a bit more energetically this month. If in the southern hemisphere or in different parts of the world where the climate is different, you might not feel like that. But yeah, I think that fiery kick at the end of the month will probably be when I start to kind of do a bit of house cleansing, protection, banishing, that kind of thing. So yeah, I feel like that's where this is going this month. So it's a short month, obviously, it's February. In the wee moon, it says about a cosmic demand to apply energy and iron will to whatever makes us safe in the material world becomes an imperative. And so you might find issues around kind of safety and finances. I know obviously in the US there's a lot of things going down politically at the moment, and in the UK as well we've got it's very unstable at the moment, not so much within who's governing the country, although that is somewhat unstable, but with the United Kingdom is going to be leaving the European Union at the end of March, so there's a lot of kind of unsurety, especially around those kind of financial resources, the people's savings, and if you've got any investments and things like that, people are getting a little bit cagey because they're not sure how things are going to pan out. You know, obviously we aren't. So yeah, I feel like that probably will be a focus this month as well. And my feelings on how I will be dealing with that, in a sense, is I will be focusing on things like protection and cleansing and grounding and centering, and just kind of trying to feel really safe in my own physical body. And I find that then kind of spirals out to my other resources and belongings and things. So yeah, that's kind of my take on February. And I'm sure, oh gosh, I'm bashing my stamps around, sorry. The goddess who has stepped forward to work with us this month, and I'm sure it'll feel like a light relief if you were with me last month for Tlazolteotl, who was, I felt a weird kind of connection with that goddess. She was very obviously present in some of the things that I was doing and feeling in the month, and yet I did not have a kind of face-to-face encounter with her during the month, even when doing the meditations and things like that, which I thought was interesting. So it'll be intriguing to see what happens this month. And this month I chose to use this deck, the Goddess Oracle by Amy Sophia Marashinsky and illustrated by Harana Yanto. And the goddess who stepped forward is Uzume. And the word on her card is laughter. So I'm just going to read a little bit about what this is. A goddess that comes out for me fairly often when I'm doing readings, and it always kind of, it makes me smile because of the whole kind of laughter. And you'll see when I read some of this, if you're not familiar with her already, she's very kind of she gives no fucks, you know, and she's very comfortable with her body and with herself, and that is always refreshing. I feel like, oh yeah, you know, that's a lovely energy, and also it's a relief in a way, you know, to not have to worry about looking a certain way or be a certain way. There's a lot of power in our joy and in our laughter. So yeah, I love it when this goddess comes out, and it makes me feel like perhaps February is not going to be such a hard slog as it might have been feeling for the last couple of months. So let me read. There's always like a little poem, or almost like a kind of poem for each of the goddesses in this deck. It's a wonderful deck. I really, really love it. There's a really good kind of spread of goddesses. I feel like they're all handled sensitively and not in an appropriative way. So yeah, I think it's great. So Uzume, laughter. Before the rock cave of heaven, where Amaterasu Omikami, the sun goddess, had hidden her radiant face, where all the assembled gods and goddesses had tried and failed to lure her out, I stepped up to the cave with utmost seriousness, with grave determination, with proper decorum and a lofty mien. And with a bump and a bump and a bump, 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 lifted my kimono and revealed myself in ways that caused the mouths of the exalted ones to water and fall open. Then I played puppet with my labia and paid myself a little lip service. I heaved my breast over one shoulder, then the other over the other, and landed on my ass with a bump and a bump and a bump, 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 amidst the explosions of laughter and merriment of the esteemed crowd. With breast tied in a knot, my legs spread like a welcome mat, I called in the spirits and offered them my body, but they refused to take it. The crowd howled and laughed as I continued my dance, till Amaterasu Omikami couldn't stand it any longer, and rushed out to see what was what, and thus did laughter win the sun goddess from her dark cave and bring light and warmth back into the world. So, you know, that just shows you the kind of earthy sexiness. And what I love is that when you get a bit more familiar with the story, is that the gods and goddesses were, yes, they were laughing at her, but it was intentional. That was what she was doing. There wasn't anything kind of vindictive about it. She knew that was was the response she was going to get. She played for that response, and it's the only thing that worked. After all the gods and goddesses had tried to bring the sun back out of the cave, this was what worked. Which I think, you know, it's like, it is that Aquarian out of the box thinking, you know, something that you wouldn't think to do. It reminds me as well of that story about when the sun and the wind were having an argument about who was the strongest. And the sun was like, well, obviously I am the strongest, you know, I can do everything, I can warm people, I make the things grow. And the wind was like, yes, but I am the strongest because I can blow the clouds all over the world and blow the rain, and I can blow over trees and cause big storms and things like that. And they were arguing. And the sun then said, well, how about we have a little competition? Do you see that man down there? Let's see who can get his coat off. And I'm probably not telling this story completely properly, but the wind's like, no problem, I'll be able to blow his coat off, no worries. So he tries everything, you know, he blows as hard as he can to try and blow the coat off, but the man just pulls it further and further around his body, and he makes it rain and hail, and the man just pulls it tighter and tighter around his body. And then the sun says, okay, now it's my turn. And the sun clears away the clouds with the warmth, and then bakes down really, really hot on the man, and of course he takes his coat off. And you know, it's sometimes that whole force is not the best way to get people to go about doing things. Giving them something that makes them feel warm and joyful, actually, or curious, you know, it's coming at it from a different angle, which I really love. I think it's really interesting. And also that story reminds me of that song, you know, that song, do your ears hang low, do they wobble to and fro? And we sing that in the car, and we sing, do your boobs hang low? And sometimes we sing, do your balls hang low as well, and the kids think it's hilarious. But yeah, it's do your boobs hang low, do they wobble to and fro? Can you tie them in a knot? Can you tie them in a bow? Can you throw them over your shoulder like a regimental soldier? Do your boobs hang low? And you know, it's that kind of very irreverent take on things that I think is going to be refreshing this month, which will be lovely. So no, I didn't read this bit. So this is just a little bit of the mythology, and I'll read some from Patricia Monaghan as well, which gives a little bit kind of more of a academic-y style background to Uzume. So she is ancient Japan's shaman goddess, is credited as being the one to entice the sun goddess, Amaterasu Omikami, out of the cave where she had hidden. Uzume did a bawdy dance, making fun of shamanic ritual. She exposed her breast, she played with her genitals, amidst the howls of laughter of the deities assembled. So loud and enticing was the uproar she created, that Amaterasu's curiosity got the better of her, and she came out of the cave. And they've got the meaning of the card. Uzume begins her comic dance in your life to tell you it is time to nurture wholeness with laughter. Laughter causes us to relax, enables us to gain perspective, helps ease us through difficulties. Have you been taking life too seriously? When is the last time you had a good laugh? Are you able to laugh at yourself in a gentle way? Perhaps life is challenging you with such ferocity that you find it hard to see the humour in your present situation. Uzume says that wholeness is gained when you choose to laugh and see the humour in life's challenges. So yeah, I thought that was really, not that life is not challenging, but that when you find the humour in that, it gives you another way, it gives you another perspective on the situation. So in Patricia Monaghan, it tells you the story about Amarasatu hiding in the cave. What had happened is the sun goddess had been badly treated by her brother, the storm god. Oh, which is kind of reminiscent of that story I told as well, isn't it? So he had behaved really inappropriately, and she was like, right, well, that's it, I'm not going to do my duties anymore. And she'd gone into a cave and the whole world had fallen dark, and obviously that it was going to be the end of the world if they couldn't get her out of the cave, and nothing could get her out of the cave until Uzume did her dance. Uzume is credited with being the first shaman called Miko or Sarume in ancient Japan. Early shamans were queens like Himiko, but later they were princesses and commoners. Some Japanese women today, especially those in Okinawa and the surrounding islands, practice shamanic divination. These women often practice a combination of verbal and movement magic called Chinkonsai, of which Uzume's performance before the Sky Rock Cave was the original. Such magic was employed during eclipses and at funerals, suggesting a parallel between the sun's disappearance and death. A dance called Kagura, part of Shinto ritual, enacts Uzume's dance. So I thought that was interesting as well, like even in the darkest times, this kind of ritual. I definitely found that as well when you go to funerals, especially here in Wales, we have wakes usually after funerals, depending on like the background of the family, and obviously everybody's very sad, and then people will share stories and the mood shifts and there is laughter, and that is very healing and very powerful. So it'll be interesting to see how Uzume and laughter and perspective and how that all kind of weaves in with the Aquarius sun and the lunar cycle, which is unfolding in February for us. I'll be recording the ritual for Uzume later on today, and these videos will probably come up at the same time, so you'll be able to see them both together. And I think that is it. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful month, and please do leave your comments about how you feel about Uzume. Is she a new goddess for you, or have you worked with her before? What have you found? That kind of thing. I'd be interested to know. And obviously over in the Facebook circle, if you're in the full moon tier or above, we will be diving deeper into the practices and things that are hinted at in that story. I promise I won't ask anyone to do a striptease. Not in public anyway. So yes, I will see you over there if you are over there, and if not, then I will see you next month with our new goddess for that month. Have a wonderful, wonderful February, and I will see you soon.